Hey folks, Jackdaw here, once more talking about Baldur's Gate 3, the highly anticipated third installment of the Baldur's Gate series, set to take players on a new adventure in the Forgotten Realms a century after the previous games. While it seems BG3 is going to serve more as a spiritual successor, the game isn't going to directly follow the Ballspawn storyline that was heavily featured in the previous games, but instead we have a new story that is built upon the established lore and history of the earlier Baldur's Gate games. Of course, fans of the series can expect references to the previous games and cameos from familiar characters such as Minsc and Jaheira. But to fully grasp the tone and setting of Baldur's Gate 3, I think it's essential for us to understand the specific major events that have led up to the storyline so far, and that is exactly what we're going to be uncovering today, so that when we go into Baldur's Gate 3, we know what to expect and what has occurred beforehand. As a preface, the previous Baldur's Gate games are deeply connected to the Time of Troubles, a chaotic period in the history of the Forgotten Realms campaign setting, which occurred during the advanced Dungeons & Dragons era of D&D. And during this time of trouble, the gods of Faerun were forced to walk the earth as mortals, with only a fraction of their power at their disposal. This caused magic to become unreliable, and many of the gods were killed, including Bane, the god of tyranny, Merkel, the god of the dead, and Baal, the god of murder. Now, Baal, however, was given a prophecy about his own death, and he concocted a plan to return and reclaim his power, thus setting the stage for the Baldur's Gate series, which followed the journey of the Ballspawn, a group of children fathered by Baal before his death, who were destined to become powerful beings. The Ballspawn were pursued by different factions that sought to use their power for their own purposes, and in Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, as well as Throne of Baal, players encountered captivating characters and faced various challenges that put their adventuring skills to the test. With that as a general preface, let's delve even further and trace the entire storyline of the Baldur's Gate series so far, from the very first game, leading up to the epic adventure that awaits in Baldur's Gate 3. So, BioWare's Baldur's Gate, released in 1998, the very year I was born, immerses players in a tale of divine murder and a dire iron shortage in the year 1368 DR. The storyline revolves around the god of murder, Baal, and his offspring, who are coming of age in the midst of chaos. Meanwhile, the southern south coast region is plagued by a scarcity of iron that results from a mine near Nashkel that produces corrupt iron. At the very beginning of the game, the new player character, a nameless orphan who grew up in the Forgotten Realms library city of Candlekeep, and their adopted sister Imowen are wards of a powerful mage named Gorion. After assassins attack Candlekeep, Gorion and the protagonist flee, only to be ambushed in the wilderness by a warrior named Saravok. In a selfless act, Gorion sacrifices his life to save the protagonist, who teams up with Imowen to seek answers. The protagonist sets out on an adventure across the Sword Coast and resolves the mystery of the tainted iron in the Nashkel mines. Along the way, they discover the Iron Throne, a powerful trade organization, and learn that Saravok, the leader of the Iron Throne, is causing chaos to gain power in Baldur's Gate. Upon reaching the city, the protagonist learns that they are a child of Baal, and that the Ballspawn were created to serve as instruments for Baal's resurrection. Further complicating matters, the protagonist discovers that Saravok is also a Ballspawn, and that he is on the verge of being appointed Grand Duke of Baldur's Gate. The protagonist exposes Saravok's scheme, and the two Ballspawn engage in a final battle in an abandoned temple of Baal, culminating in Saravok's defeat. Baldur's Gate 2, Shadows of Am, released in 2000, which begins with the protagonist locked in a cell by the wizard John Arenicus, who's conducting heinous experiments. Imowen, the protagonist's adopted sister and fellow adventurer from the first game, rescues them, and they escape to the city of Athkatla. Arenicus and Imowen are later apprehended by the Cowled Wizards, the city's magical protectors, and are taken to Spellbound, a high-security asylum. The protagonist sets out to free Imowen and enlists the help of a stranger who demands a large sum of money. They also cross paths with Bodhi, a powerful vampire leading a group of undead in Athkatla. After gathering the necessary funds, the protagonist reaches Spellhold, only to discover that Arenicus has taken over and stolen the souls of both them and Imowen. It's then revealed that Imowen is also a Ballspawn, and her soul has been given to Bodhi, who happens to be Arenicus' sister. As if that wasn't enough, the protagonist now has the ability to transform into a monster known as the Slayer. Despite these difficulties, the party eventually defeats Arenicus and Bodhi. The adventure takes them from the Underdark to the elven city of Soldanacella, and even to Hell itself. Along the way, the party may even receive assistance from Drizzt de Erden, a legendary character from the D&D universe. Finally, Arenicus is vanquished perished, and the souls of both the protagonist and Imoen are restored to their bodies. And released in 2000, Baldur's Gate 2, The Throne of Baal is an expansion pack for Baldur's Gate 2, Shadow of Arm, believe it or not. This DLC takes place after the events of Shadow of Arm and explores the storyline of the Baalspawn, a group of powerful individuals who possess the divine spark of the dead god Baal. As each Baalspawn perished, the power of the remaining ones grew stronger, leading to a war between the five, the most powerful Baalspawn. Elisera, an elven fighter mage, is killed at the very start of the game, leaving Senna, Abazagal, Balthazar, and Yagashura as the remaining contenders for the throne. Melissan, a woman who aims to end the war between the Baalspawn, is revealed to be Melissan, the former high priestess of Baal. The protagonist is forced to slay their siblings in order to stop the war. The final battle takes place at the foot of Baal's throne, where the protagonist confronts Melissan. Once defeated, the protagonist is faced with three choices: either become the new god of murder, become a benevolent deity, or destroy the throne of Baal and remain mortal. Now, D&D has a canon choice for this decision, as it was revealed that a Baalspawn named Abdel Adrian destroyed the throne, but Baal somehow had managed to return upon Abdel's death, pretty much rendering the events of Baldur's Gate's story somewhat obsolete, or at least this DLC's ending. However, the ending of this DLC is very much a player-driven choice at the end of the day, in very much BioWare and Black Isle Studios' true fashion. And so we have Baldur's Gate 3, created by Larian Studios, set in the aftermath of the events of the previous Baldur's Gate games, which saw the Baalspawn and their siblings battle for supremacy. Baldur's Gate 3 is releasing on August 31st, 2023 for both PC and PlayStation 5. And at the start of BG3, we have a brand new player character who finds themselves on a Mind Flayer ship known as a Nautiloid as a prisoner, along with many other captives, after a Mind Flayer tadpole was inserted into their eye. The Nautiloid causes destruction in Yatar, prompting an attack by Red Dragon riding Githyanki. After several attempts to relocate the Nautiloid, it crash lands near the river Chenethar, leaving the player character stranded with newfound abilities. Along the way, the main character finds companions who fear Ceramorphis and seek out a cleric to heal them. Given the prologue, it seems like the Mind Flayers are the primary antagonists of Baldur's Gate 3, a powerful and ancient evil who have taken control of Baldur's Gate and are spreading their influence throughout the region. They turn people into mind-controlling thralls and use them to carry out their nefarious plans. The player's ultimate goal is to stop the Mind Flayers from creating a powerful army of thralls and conquering the world of Faerun. And that's where the story of BG3 is currently at its early access stage. Ultimately, Baldur's Gate 3 is a continuation of this epic storyline, and players can certainly expect to see references from the previous games and familiar characters, along with a new story that promises to put our adventuring skills to the test. Now, given the previous Baldur's Gate games events, it's even possible that Baal, who returned in the canonical ending of the previous game, may make another appearance, possibly even as the main villain of Baldur's Gate 3, if Larian want to shoot that far. Fundamentally, there are going to be many nods to the previous Baldur's Gate games. While the storyline is going in a different direction from the Baalspawn, the world of Baldur's Gate is very much at stake in true Forgotten Realms fashion. Additionally, it's going to be exciting seeing characters like Minsc and Jaheira make their grand return as companions, friends, and potentially even romance options this time around in Baldur's Gate. Ultimately, the game is set to launch fully in August, and hopefully this video has provided you with enough information to dive into the world of Faerun with a better understanding of its history and the events that have occurred that are going to lead directly into this epic adventure even a century after. Who knows how much of a connection the previous Baldur's Gate games are going to have? I'm certainly excited to find out what makes its way into the final cut of BG3 once it's finally here in August. But let me know all of your thoughts and expectations. Do you think Baal will make his reckoning comeback, or do you think that storyline is fundamentally over and the Mind Flayers are the true proper threat of BG3? What do you think about seeing Minsc and Jaheira? Are there any other characters who could return to the world of Faerun given BG3's events? I would love to know all of your thoughts down below. But until the next one, you're of course already in the right place for all the latest on BG3 as we follow it to its launch coming up very, very soon. I have been Jackdaw, and I will see you in the next one. But until then, I should go. Whoa, 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 whoa.